The way food aggression is used in current day situations is rather loosely, and it's to mean that a horse is being aggressive when there's food present. And to really test whether a horse is actually truly food aggressive or not, you need to see it in more than one situation, and with and without food, to see if it's also behaving aggressively without food. Many times you'll see a horse that's aggressive with food is also pushy without food. It's important to see a horse outside one specific situation to know if it's food aggressive or not. Say you have a horse that's difficult to trailer load and you're giving food rewards, and so the horse is being pushy and so forth. You can't really say that the horse is food aggressive because it's being pushy and aggressive in that situation just because there's being food given. My horse has a situation like this where he becomes both aggressive and fearful and alternates between the two whenever my vet shows up. And I do food rewards, and you can't really say, oh, it's the food that's causing the aggression, unless you also see that horse outside that situation. If you see my horse in other situations outside the vet visit, you'll see that with and without food, he's not aggressive. It's something specific to that situation. If you have a horse that is consistently showing pushiness and aggression in various different situations with food involved, then I'd suggest that you also check out how that horse is without food. And I find in most cases that's what it is. When a horse is showing aggression in various different situations, it's not necessarily the food, it's boundary issues. If you have a horse that's aggressive, you don't really want to match aggression with aggression. That's war. So what I'd rather see somebody do is teach a horse to back up. If you teach a horse to back up and it knows back up very well, you can reestablish your boundaries with that horse very easily without being pushy or aggressive back to it. This horse really knows back up very well. He has several different cues for backing up. One of them is that I put my head down. Very good. Nice job, Wilbur. Something to keep in mind is that a horse can't trust you unless you trust it first. It will only mirror the trust that you give it. And something I find people have a hard time with is putting their back to a horse. Good job, Willie. This is not the great one around here. It's not my herd. Back up, back up, back up, back up. Yay! Good job! Come here, Willie. Now you just show me. When you're using backup as a tool to reestablish boundaries, if you keep backing your horse out of your space to the point that you want him to stay at, he'll eventually stay at that point if you're consistent with doing that all the time. He'll get tired of backing up and he'll just stop at that point. I'm letting him get way into my space here because I'm going to show you something. A lot of people feel that they need to get overly powerful with a horse to get them out of their space, when teaching boundaries shouldn't be that way. Horses really understand boundaries because it's a big portion of their life in the horse herd and with people. You really have to just show them what it is you want. All you really need to do is to block them from coming into your space. You don't need to push on their head or yank on their halter. Now, when I do this next thing to him, watch how when I block his space so that he can't come into my space, he continues to move his head in the other direction until he's reached a point where I pull my hand down. He's going to keep trying because he wants to do what I want him to do. All right, what else have we got? Let's check in the paper. We need a boundary turn. I tend to be rather flexible about my horse's boundaries. The more consistent you are, the more he'll respect boundaries in a specific way. I tend to be flexible because I allow a different boundary when we're playing than when we're training, a different boundary when we're hanging out, and he understands the difference. Horses are that smart. You got to give them credit. A lot of people understand that we have a space around us that we like to have as our personal space and our personal boundaries. But what a lot of people don't realize is that horses have a personal space around their face that they like to consider as their personal space, and they would like us to respect that space like we would like them to respect ours. And in some instances, what I see people doing when they're trying to give treats to a horse is they're facing off with their full body up to that horse's face, which is a very rude way of saying, get away from me. You're in their space. It would be like somebody standing nose to nose with you and talking to you, and you just want to get away from them. And at the same time that they're doing that, they're holding out a treat in their hand, and it's a very mixed message. It's get away from me, and here's a treat. Get away from me, and here's a treat. And to a horse, that's kind of like being teased. And they'll reach around and they'll snap that from you really fast because they're really confused about what it is you mean. And that's a boundary issue. This horse is used to me mugging all over him, so he really doesn't take it too much as an insult. But if you have a horse that's not used to it, one of the ways that a horse might prefer you to mug all over their face would be to invite them into your space. Can I have your head, young man? That's a good boy. That's a good job. You should try to let go of the head when you're first doing this before he decides to pull his head away. If you start to feel him do that little tense before he's going to pull his head away, you've waited too long. You want to make it your decision, not his, whenever possible. But if he does really want to pull his head away, let him pull his head away. Don't make him hold it there. He will eventually let you hold it longer and longer if you're patient. Sometimes people try to force horses to do things that they should actually be more patient, and it would happen. I find that a lot of people that have problems with these type of training methods are people that don't spend much ground time with their horse other than throwing him in the round pen. Horses are really quite smart. If you spend more downtime with them on the ground, doing groundwork, and playing with them and treating them more like a dog, a household pet, then you'll find that they're actually about as smart as a dog.